Ampifaliana mandrakariva trany ny arabanantsika mpanaraka an'ireo fampizarana eto amin'ny pejy Zava-Manahiran'ny Vehivavy andray vahiny tanora vehivavy Amerikanina indray antsika androany mpiara-mianatra zahay ao amin'ny UC Berkeley na University of California eto Berkeley miara-mianatra amin'ny matière anankiray antsoina hoe gender and women studies zahay izay mifanaraka indrindra amin'ny isan'ny zava-dehibe indrindra tiany pejy atongavana dia ny ampianatra antsika vehivavy an'izany resaka hoe fianarana momba ny fanavakavahana tsy amin'ny mahalasy sy mahavavy ihany fa momba ny fianarana momba ny vehivavy sy ny fiarahamonina manontolo izany dia ampifaliana ny andraisantsika azy izarany momba azy eto amin'ny pejy satria isany zavatra tena naharesy lahatra anay roa vavy izany ho fandraisana anjara amin'ny TRANSNATIONAL FEMINISM na ny fifanohanany samy vehivavy avy amin'ny firenena samy hafa mba hiaraka hampandroso ny vehivavy izay isany lohateny tena maharesy lahatra anay roa nandritra ny fianarana satria efa mamaraparana ny semestra zay amin'izao dia mahafaly anay roa izany mba mandray anjara amin'ny fampandrosoana ny vehivavy malagasy sy ny vehivavy avy amin'ny firenena hafa amin'ny alalan'ny fifampizarana izay ataonay roa vavy mahakasika ny tantaram-piainany. Izany hoe tsy ny tantaram-piainany manontolo araka ny efa verimberina foana eto amin'ny pejy fa izay entiny hifampizarana ho fampandrosoana ny vehivavy ary indrindra ho fanokafana ny saintsika vehivavy malagasy hoe samy namboarin'Andriamanitra ho vehivavy ny vehivavy rehetrarehetra na ao Madagasikara na ivelan'ny Madagasikara samy tian'Andriamanitra samy namboarin'Andriamanitra araka ny endriny fa misy anefa rafim-piarahamonina rafim-pitantanana na rafitry ny fikambanana sy ny fiangonana izay mbola manizingizina sy manambany ny vehivavy dia entina hanokafana ny saintsika izany ireto fifampizarana izay arahana amin'ny vehivavy aty ivelany reto hoe tsy izay nametrahan'ny fiarahamonina misy atsika no maha izy azy atsika vehivavy fa hafa mihitsy ny fijerin'ny olona sy ny fijerin'ny fiarahamonina ary hafa mihitsy ny fijerin'Andriamanitra ary Andriamanitra ilay tsy manavakavaka dia mampitovy ny vehivavy rehetra na malagasy na vahiny dia mino hafa mba fandraisana anjara hanokatra ny saintsika vehivavy malagasy indrindra isika tanora vehivavy malagasy ny tantarany magia roho. So we have Maggie Wu as a guest here. We are so honored to have you here, share part of your story and who you are. So thank you very much again for accepting our invitation. As usually, I invite the guest to introduce yourself in English and then I will translate in Malagasy.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, my name is Maggie. I'm 18 years old. And for the most of my life, I've lived here in California, but I have moved around a little bit, mostly because of my dad's job. And yeah, I've lived in other states. Like I lived in Seattle, Washington, for a couple years, and then I also lived in China for quite a bit of years, actually. Sorry. I think that living in China or like the time I spent in China was very like transformative for me because when I moved to China, I was in my early teenage years. I was like 11 or 12 and living in a different country and interacting with people from different backgrounds. Even though I'm Chinese, like I grew up in America, so I feel like I still think of myself as more American because like all of the content that I consume and like, all of my like all the TV shows I watch, all of like the games I play are more like American. So going back to China and talking to people from other parts of the world, like, different culture than the one I grew up in was very eye-opening to me. And like, I think the first time I started to notice like, I guess like gender roles and like how women and men were treated, because I feel like when you don't change the place you're from, you tend to like accept it. But then when you see it differently somewhere else. Like, for example, you see how China is different from America, you start to see like, wow, like that is something that happens. There is a gender role, there is like a difference between men and women. So that is also kind of when I started to become aware of that. And then also at the time, like I was reading more like complex books, and I feel like the books also introduced me to that. Like I was reading um like Little House on the Prairie and like a lot of just like historical books, and I feel like that kind of helped solidify it. But yeah, anyways, and then in and then I am currently a freshman at UC Berkeley, and my major is comparative literature. And then for people who don't know, comparative literature is basically like, learning about literature, but across different languages, across different times, across different cultures, across like just all kinds of things. And then you're just kind of comparing like how, culture and language shape literature and how that can be different all across the world. And that's like what I was interested in because growing up between like China and America, I feel like just learning English or just learning like communications wasn't enough for me. I wanted to learn about the different cultures across the world. And it was also what drew me to it was because I've always wanted to be like a journalist and I want to work as like a reporter or journalist. And I feel like to be able to be a really good journalist, you want to be able to understand different cultures and different like languages and backgrounds because that gives you a better understanding of like people and what they will have to say to you. So yeah, I was really drawn to comparative literature. Yeah, I would say that like from my family background, like my parents, even though I think China is inherently like a sexist like country, like most countries are, like I think people in China prefer like boys over girls. They think like they're more capable and more able to like hold up the family, I guess. Especially in the olden times, like in agricultural China, if a family didn't have a boy, that was considered like very terrible and like your family would basically like die or like was very shameful to not have a boy. But I'm really fortunate that my parents and even my grandparents like never really had that mindset. I mean, it comes from the fact that we're like a more educated family. Like even my great grandpa, we went to college and like we have a really long history of like people going to college and getting a really good education. And so I think that education does eradicate a lot of these like but like more backwards views of gender and are able to erase like because inherently there is no reason why men are better. It's just like, like old traditional views. And so going to college, becoming educated was really essential to getting rid of that view. And it's also why like we value education as a family a lot. And yeah, like growing up, I was never told to that I couldn't do something because I was a girl. And that was actually really funny because when I was applying to college, I wrote a lot of my college essays on women's rights and female empowerment. And then my college counselor was like, "Okay, this is all very great, but have you ever been like told you could do something because you're a girl?" And I was like, "Wait, like no, I've never been told I could do anything because of a girl. Personally, I've never been impacted um by being a woman, and like that's never been a disadvantage for me, and it's never impacted me on a personal level. Obviously I see it on a social level, but personally it's not really a problem for me. And yeah, I mean, I'm ready for my next question if you want to ask that.
Yeah. May I just ask for
Yeah.
clarification? So both your parents and grandparents are Chinese, and
Yes.
how long have you been in China? The
um
transformative.
yeah, no worries. I was in China from when I was like 11 to like 15, so like 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I spent most of my teenage years there, so it was very interesting.
Wow.
But yeah, and then yes, my parents, grandparents they're all Chinese. My parents came to America for their master's degree. So they came to get higher education here, and then they stayed because they got like a good job offer, and then they wanted to raise their kids here. And then also a lot of my other family members are also here. Like my aunts and uncles, a lot of them are here as well. Like my grandparents are still in China, but a lot of people of my parents' generation, like they're all over here right now. So and they're all in California, so we're gonna actually have the Thanksgiving with them.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. So the second question is like you said you study comparative literature, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
take with middle class gender and women.
Yeah.
So why is that? But by the
Yeah.
I will translate. I will let you because
Yeah.
I about all of these details because I need also to explain in Malagasy
Yes. Of
to my
course.
people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So
Um,
I think I kind of got ahead of, yeah.
I will translate first and then you can respond to the
Okay,
second.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Araka ny lazainy teo zany Magio ny anarany valo amby folo taona izy Sinoa zany ny ray aman-dreniny ny fianakaviany manontolo moa zany hatramin'ny dadabeny sy ry bebeny fa nianatra taty Etats-Unis zany ny ray aman-dreniny nanao master ny dian'izy mivady taty dia rehefa vita moa ny fianarany dia nahita asa tsara ry zareo dia nanapa-kevitra hoe hijanona taty Etats-Unis zany hoe teto Californie foana izy no tena nipetraka fa do ny asany rainy zany misy fotoana izy nifindra tany Seattle, Washington. Aty Etats-Unis koa indraindray variana, indraindray fanina antsika fa misy Washington DC zany ilay hoe any le fantatsika malaza any amin'ny renivohitra fa misy koa ilay Seattle, Washington zay samy hafa zany io tanàna io samy aty atsinanana aty akaikikaiky ny Californie aty ihany zany izy io fa ny tena nanova tanteraka ny fiainana izy sy ny fomba fijeriny dia nisy fotoana ry zareo nipetraka 4 taona tany Chine. Teo amin'ny 1 ka hatramin'ny 5 taona teo zany izy nandeha tany Chine ry zareo no ny asany rainy niteraka anazy zany dia nahita n'ilay fahasamihafany kolontsaina izy dia tena nanova tanteraka ny fomba fijeriny zany indrindrandrindra izy amin'ilay fanavakavahana an'ilay hoe mahalahy sy ny mahavavy. Raha tanatina kolontsaina anankiray fotsiny izy dia ohatran'ny hoe ekenao automatika zany hoe misy fahasamihafany ny lehilahy sy ny vehivavy fa rehefa niala teto Amerika izy tamin'io adolatsento tsara mihitsy ny taonany tamin'io dia nanomboka nahita izy hoe kay misy fanavakavahana ny mahalahy sy ny mahavavy tamin'ny kolontsaina sinoa dia nanomboka raha ny fahafantarany ny teniny satria nasaiko nampafantatra ny tenany izy teo dia miconsidere ny tenany ho Amerikanina zany izy satria teraka teto namaky boky Amerikanina misy hoe Little House in the Story boky tantara Amerikanina moa zany isan'ny lazainy teo zany hoe voataiza ho Amerikanina mihitsy zany izy fa ny razambeny moa Sinoa dia amin'izao fotoana izao izy mianatra amin'ny université ny aty amin'ny université aty koa misy alohany anaovanao master zany na imaîtrisevanao spécialité anankiray dia ohatran'ny hoe mianatra zavatra rehetrarehetra en général ny mpianatra rehetrarehetra ohatran'ny hoe manao licence any amintsika zany fa na izany ara dia asiana ihany hoe major zany hoe spécialité majeur anao sy spécialité mineur zany ho an'ny mpianatra zay moa ny système ny université aty Etats-Unis dia ny spécialité majeure raisiny zany satria mbola manao karazana hoe licence any amintsika izy amin'izao dia manao comparative littérature comparative zany raha ohatra ka dikako amin'ny teny frantsay zany hoe mianatra lahatsoratra amina kolontsaina samihafa amin'ny fiteny samihafa tamin'ny fotoana samihafa tamin'ny toerana samihafa dia ireo zany no ampitahainy zay zany ilay zavatra atao amin'ilay fianarana ka isan'ny tena mahalina anazy moa zany amin'ny mahasinoa nefa teratany Amerikanina anazy dia ny kolontsaina sinoa sy ny kolontsaina Amerikanina dia ny tanjony moa zany amin'io fianarana ny hoe littérature comparative io dia mba ho lasa journaliste reporter izy zay zany ny tanjonany dia mba hahazoany tsara ny zavatra hanaovany rapport izy amin'ilay asany maha journaliste anazy dia ilainy zany ny mahafantatra ny background ny kolontsaina samihafa mba ho azony tsara hoe mba ho tafitany tsara ilay zavatra ampitainy amin'ilay asany fa tsy vakiny amina kolontsaina anankiray fotsiny. Dia tao anatin'izay izy dia tena tsapany hoe sexiste ny any Chine raha ampitahaina amin'ny Etats-Unis. Nazavainy teo zany fa ilay sexisme tiany lazaina dia hoe atao hoe ambony kokoa sy manandanja kokoa ny lehilahy raha ampitahaina amin'ny vehivavy ary mitovitovy amin'ny antsika any Madagasikara izy fa izany hoe fianakaviana tsy mananjanakalahy zany dia tena hoe mahamenatra. Mbola misy zany amin'ny fombantsika any Madagasikara rehefa mitera-dà dia tena hoe na nitso-drano ara dia mitera-dà nitady zaza ka nahazo lahy ohatran'ny hoe mitovitovy amin'ny kolontsaina ny sinoa zany ny antsika fa ny tao amin'ny fianakaviana nefa izy tsy mba naheno an'izany mihitsy izy hoe satria izy vehivavy dia ambany kokoa na tsy mitovy valeur amina lehilahy zany dia ny zavatra tsy karitrany zany ozy izy hoe ny fianakaviana nianatra nandia fianarana nahita fianarana satria na ny dadabeny sy ny bebeny ozy izy dia efa nahita fianarana dia tsy mampianatra ny tararany an'izany hoe ny lehilahy ambony kokoa sy ny vehivavy ambany kokoa zany fa ohatran'ny hoe karazana kolontsaina efa nentim-paharazana zany ny fanavakavanan'ny lehilahy sy ny vehivavy dia tsy mba nitombo hoe voailikilika na ilikilika noho ny mahavehivavy anazy zany izy ozy izy na hatrany amin'ny fiainany manontolo na izany ary ozy izy dia ny fanoratana momba ny vehivavy foana ny tena nahaliana anazy rehefa nanao examen tany an-tsekoly sy ny ohatran'izany ka tamin'ny fiainany manontolo zany dia tsy mba nahatsiaro na personnellement na teo amin'ny fiarahamonina izy hoe voailikilika na nambaniana ny amin'ny mahavehivavy anazy. Dia efa napetrako tamin'ny teo moa ny fanontaniana faharoa hoe raha io zavatra ianaranao io manao littérature comparative io inona indray ary ny nahaliana anao nianatra momba an'ilay hoe gender and women studies. Okay, it was longer because I needed to give the background, as you say.
Yeah.
So
No worries, yeah.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, of course. Oh, the question about why I took why I took gender and women's studies. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I kind of touched on this before, but as I was talking about it, my college counselor who was helping me write my essays for college, he asked me the question like, you write a lot about women and gender rights and equality, but then like, how are you personally affected by it? And I couldn't answer him because personally I had not been affected by this. So I was like thinking like, yes, I care so much about this topic because I'm a woman, but am I really like a victim? Like, have I really faced, sexism? Like, not really. I can't really think of a time where I faced it in my life. So I kind of took that to college. And then when I was picking my classes, in high school, I also did a lot of work around like women's rights and equal rights and stuff like that. I did a club called Girls Impact for Tomorrow where we kind of wrote articles about women's rights across the world. We traveled to different countries to talk to women and also like get photos of them. And we did like little programs to help women like start small businesses and like kind of promote their products. And yeah, that was like one of the main activities I did during high school. And that activity combined with like my college counselor asking me like, as a woman, how have you been affected by sexism and like women's rights? And I kind of thought about that when I was picking my classes, and I was like, yeah, I want to learn more about it because I've devoted a lot of time to it and I'm really passionate about it, but yeah, I still don't have like a good understanding of what it truly means to like what equality really means and like what gender equality and what like women's empowerment really looks like. And so when I took this class, I kind of wanted to get like a better idea of like just like how like level and how on a global scale like women's issues are being put out, and then how I can understand it from like a bigger perspective of bigger than just like myself and my own life. So yeah, so I took this class and I just thought it was really interesting because like we learned a lot about a lot of terms that I think can really describe it really well, like intersectionality or like like colonialism and nationalism and how they kind of work with feminism as well. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think that it did give me a new way of thinking about this class because like even though I might personally not be affected by sexism or maybe no one has said to me outright, oh, you can't do this because you're a woman, but I think it's important to recognize that because we live in a patriarchal society, like all of us to some extent are affected by it. Like even in ways that maybe you don't see it or you don't recognize it, like it's always there. And so being able to recognize that is like the first step in changing anything. Because if you don't recognize it, then you'll never be able to like truly make a change. Yeah.
Wow. I'd like to translate that, but if you can give like not academic definition, but how would you explain to people who listen to it, what is these terms that you learned, like intersectionality?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I will translate first and then I will give you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Araka ny nazavainy teo zany efa nanoratra momba ny vehivavy foana izy hoe ny mira lenta nahoana moa ny vehivavy no lasa victime ny resaka hoe sexisme na amin'ny fiarahamonina na amin'ny maha-vehivavy anazy fotsiny de nanomboka tany amin'ny lycée izy de efa nanoratra foana sy liana foana ny amin'ny resaka hoe mira lenta, inona nisy fikambanana anankiray antsoina hoe Act for Tomorrow zay ary izy ny fikambanana nisy anazy miresaka momba ny nanadiady sy manangona ny tantarany hoe ny zon'ny vehivavy tamin'ny toerana samy hafa nanerana an'izao tontolo izao. De io fikambanana io koa izy manohana ny vehivavy amin'ny asa fivelomana izay tiany atao, ohatra ny hoe manao publicité ny asan'ireny vehivavy ireny mba hampatanjaka ny vehivavy ary tena jerena manokana koa hoe ahoana moa ny vehivavy no affecten'ilay fisainana sexisme. De zay zany izy ny antony nahatonga anazy niara-nianatra amiko amin'ity kilasy anankiray hoe Women and Gender Studies satria zaho izy maheno foana sy miresaka foana momba an'ilay izy nefa tsy ary tena niaina an'ilay hoe voahilikilika na noferaperana noho ny maha-vehivavy anazy de mba tia hazo misimisy kokoa izy hoe ahoana tsara moa ny tena fandehan'ity sexisme sy fanilikiliana sy fanambaniana vehivavy ity. De tao anatin'izany fianarana zany izy de tena nianatra terme na féminisme maro be mihitsy tena important be mihitsy ho fampatanjahana ny vehivavy na eo amin'ny sehatra lokal moa zany izy na indrindrandrindra ny Zava-Manahiran'ny Vehivavy na eo an-toerana na manerana an'izao tontolo izao ka isan'ny terme nianaranay tao izy ny hoe Intersectionality, ny colonialisme, ny nationalisme de ireo izy nanampy nanana fijery vaovao tanteraka mihitsy momba ny vehivavy sy ny fiarahamonina ary indrindrandrindra izy nanampy nahatsapa hoe tena mbola misy eo amin'ny fiarahamonina kay ny voka-dratsiny patriarkalisme. Ka ny fomba voalohany izy ahafahana miady amin'io patriarkalisme manambany vehivavy io de mila mahatsapa aloha ny rehetrarehetra hoe mbola misy io zay vao afaka manatsara n'ilay fiarahamonina mba tsy hanambany na hanao tsinontsinona ny vehivavy. De ny fanontaniana napetrako taminy hoe afaka hazavainao ve ireo terme ireo hoe intersectionality, colonialisme, nationalisme, ireo terme zava-dehibe amin'ny resaka féminisme ireo. De izay moa zany no atolotra ny antsika tsy hoe fanadinana na fanazavana akademika fa mba sady manampy antsika koa afantatra hoe inona daholo ara zany terme ampiasain'ny féminisme zany.
Okay. Do you want me to explain intersectionality? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. So the term intersectionality that I talked about just means that when we talk about women's rights and just like struggles across the world, a lot of times people will face more than one struggle. And these multiple layers of struggles, when you take them all together and you look at them in a place where all these struggles kind of overlap and add together, that's what we call intersectionality. So let's say a Black woman who is poor, her intersectionality may be that, yes, as a woman, she faces sexism, but then as a Black woman, she faces racism, but then as a poor person, she faces like classism. And so it's kind of where the multiple identities of a person and the struggles that go with the identity overlap and create a very complex, unique struggle that can only be understood if you look at all the layers and all the nuances of who she is and how society can create problems for that person. Yeah.
Okay. Araka nazavainy teo zany le terme intersectionality zao izy de isany voambolana anankiray tena zava-dehibe mihitsy ny amin'ny fianarana momba ny féminisme tsy miresaka fotsiny momba ny zon'ny vehivavy sy ny zava-manahirana ny vehivavy sy ny lehilahy izy ny intersectionality fa mijery hoe ny identité samy hafan'ny olona anankiray de samy misy fifandrongitany ao amin'ny daholo. De ohatra ny raisiny teo moa izy hoe raha vehivavy sady maintihoditra izy no mahatra dia sady ianjadiany fanavaka vaham-bolokoditra izy amin'ny maha-maintihoditra anazy ozy izy no ianjadiany sexisme izy amin'ny fanambaniana amin'ny maha-vehivavy anazy no mbola ianjadiany klasisme koa izy hoe ambany tsy misy dikany amin'ny maha-mahantra anazy. Dia ireo maha izy azy rehetrarehetra mitambatra ireo zany ozy izy no lasa miteraka olana zavatra manahirana be dia be miatra aminy dia lasa miasarotra kokoa aminy zany lasa vao maika zany izy no voaporitra kokoa noho ny olona hafa rehetrarehetra. Yeah, that was I myself never knew about like a clear definition about it before us too. So thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
You want to share other text or other terms, or we can just close with a general message you want to transmit to especially women who are watching this interview.
Oh yeah, I just want to share one more term that kind of made an impact on me. That was I think it was transnational feminism. And I think, because we're talking and we're more of like a transnational communication, and I've also been in quite a few countries. I think that what that means is just to recognize that women from different countries face different forms of sexism, and they have their own unique definition of feminism because, in each country, their history, their culture, their tradition, and thus like how they place women in society is very much different from one another. So when we're looking at transnational feminism, yes, you want to create solidarity and you want to create this like connection between women and their shared womanhood, but at the same time it's important to recognize that women struggle differently across the world. So it's like you can't just say that because we're a woman, I understand you perfectly. You don't understand other women perfectly because they're just women. They go through different things because of where they are in the world. And like just through this class, being able to recognize that is really important. Yeah.
Yeah, that is actually a really important term, especially related to what we are doing now.
Yeah, literally.
We can actually give a message related to that, like what can we do about transnational feminism compared with the global sisterhood? We just talked about it too.
Yeah.
About it. Okay, so I will translate and feel free to give us more highlight on feminism if you want to go.
Okay, yeah.
Ny terme na voambolana faharoa izay nazavainy teo koa moa izay isa manana ny lanjany indrindra amin'ny feminisme na ny fianarana momba ny vehivavy dia ny hoe transnational feminisme na feminisme mihoatra ny resaka nation amin'ny toerana anankiray fotsiny. Dia ny fanazavany anazy zany ny transnational feminisme ozy izy dia fanaovana feminisme avy amin'ny toerana samihafa, zany hoe tsy azo raisina fotsiny zany hoe ny vehivavy rehetrarehetra manerana an'izao tontolo izao dia mitovy daholo ny zava-manahirana anazy, fa arakaraka ny toerana sy ny tantara ary ny zava-misy ainan'ilay vehivavy dia samy hafa ny endrika isehoan'ilay sexisme ary samy manana ny definition feminisme no koa ny vehivavy tsirairay fa tsy hoe terena hitovy ny zavatra rehetrarehetra. Dia io transnational feminisme io zany mampiombona ny vehivavy rehetrarehetra, zany hoe solidarité sy connexion, zany hoe fifandraisana, fifanohanana, fifampaherezana samy vehivavy miatrika fomba fanaovana tsinontsinona samy hafa, samy manaja ny maha izy azy zany ny tsy fitovizana zany ny samy vehivavy avy amin'ny toerana samy hafa fa mifanohana sy mifampiaino ao anatin'izany fahasamihafana izany.
Thank you. Okay. So I guess like my message to women across the world, or like my take on feminism is like, I think we should all start by listening to one another and learning what each of our stories sound like, and through that be able to offer the most help and support because we should never assume what the other person might need in terms of help and support. Instead, we should like listen to one another and offer support in the ways that people say that they want to be helped or want to be supported.
Do you want to say more about it? I will translate that. Like, why is it important to ask for, what kind of support do
I
people?
think because as people, we are very ignorant to our privilege, and women across the world think that, oh, because I'm come from this educated background, I'm very from upper class and I have a lot of education. And even if you do have a lot of education, it doesn't mean that you know perfectly what the other person is going through. So it's always a good idea to, put yourself in a position of humbleness and listen and learn how to like take criticism and learn from your mistakes and help women in the ways that they truly want to be helped. And so I think it's really important to focus on that because a lot of times we can get wrapped up in like a lot of academic terms and we can try to, explain to women like what they're going through, but it's more important to sit down and hear their story. So I think that's what we should start by. And I think that that's also something that I learned not just from this class, but through my years working as like a feminist leader, I guess, and learning that you don't really know what someone is going through. You can't really guess, and so it's important to just always sit down and talk to them and hear their full story and give them like that space to speak.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Translate that. Ny hafatra ary araka ny mahazatra antsika hoe inona ary ny hafatra tolotrany ho an'izay mihaino indrindra fa ny vehivavy manaraka ny fampizarana teto dia ozy izy hoe ny voalohany ozy izy dia raha te hifanampy antsika samy vehivavy dia mila mahay mifampiaino aloha, mifampianatra inona ny tena tantaran'ilay olona fa tsy hoe avy dia fa mieritreritra fotsiny izany ianao hoe za nianatra, za manan-katao, za afaka manampy an'ireto olona reto dia tonga avy any ianao amin'izay zavatra fahainao, fa mila miaino aloha hoe inona ny zava-manahirana an'ireto vehivavy reto, inona ny tena tadiaviny izay vao mamaly araka an'izay filàna izay. Ary tsy voatery ho akademika foana ozy izy ny valiteny sy vahaolana azo atolotra amin'ny feminisma izany, fa mila mifanaraka amin'ilay tena zavatra ilain'ilay vehivavy ampiana mihitsy. Dia tsy tamin'ity fianarana ity ihany ozy izy nahafantarany sy nahafahana tonga amin'izany hafatra anankiroa izay atolotra an'izany fa amin'ny maha vehivavy leader feminista anazy. So thank you so much, Maggie.
Yeah, of course.
A whole semester summary of the class. We are so glad.
Yes, literally, it's ending quite soon.
Yeah, thank you. And
of course, thank you.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays.
You too.
Bye.